Welcome to my Overkill ranking. 20 studio albums in 40 years prove they are one of the hardest working bands in thrash metal. The cover presentation is handled by the adorable Kerry today. Let's go! In the first decade of the new millennium there was a period with 3 not so memorable albums. Immortalis was one of them. The bonus live DVD from Wacken is really the best thing about it. Immortalis is the only Overkill album where I haven't got any favorite songs to mention. Not much stands out. With the final track, the happy rock and roller Old School, there's at least something to remember after an uneventful album. In my first draft for this ranking I placed Necroshine a bit higher, but playing all the albums again I realized I didn't remember much from Necroshine except the title track, so I put this among the less essential albums of the band. Killbox 13, like Immortalis and Relics 14, was released in the mid-2000s, which was generally not Overkill's best time. Damned is a cool song, No Lights is a bit unusual for Overkill, and as for the rest, there's too much of the same grooving along again. Spiritual Void or Just Like You are great songs, but I Hear Black also includes some tunes which were too obviously born in the alternative 90s. Worst of all is Shades of Grey, a kind of Overkill ghost grunge, you know? I'm so sad and depressed because I have to wear that checkered shirt all day long. Not what you want to hear from a thrash band. I Hear Black is just not kicking ass as much as we used to. The cover album was okay, but too predictable. Black Sabbath, Kiss, Motorhead plus some punk for good measure. Exactly what you would expect, no surprises. On one hand, Overkill playing Motorhead's Overkill is fun. Their edition of the doomy cornucopia is great too. On the other hand, Blitz hasn't got the appropriate soft voice to sing changes, and Space Truckin' surely wasn't written for those shredding Overkill guitars. Not a must-have. Thunderhead is a great opener, belongs on any best-of compilation. I'm not so enthusiastic about the rest of the album though, some songs are quite weird. Can't Kill a Dead Man or I Hurricane for example. The new lineup with Dave Linsk was still trying to find their way, I suppose. The most recent album of a band is always difficult to place in a ranking because you didn't listen to it as many times as to the old stuff. The sound of the Wings of War puts the drumming a bit more in the foreground, doing the new drummer a favor. Typical thrash hits like batshit crazy stand next to more original stuff like Distortion. My impression is close to greatness but not hitting the mark. Ask me again in a couple of years. At 64 minutes, the longest Overkill album. With more complex and sometimes melodic songs, an interesting release, but it doesn't blow you away like some others. There's the difficulty if you've been around for so long. If you make an album that sounds too similar to the old stuff, people will say they are repeating themselves. If it sounds too different from the old stuff, the old fans might not like it. So you're always walking that borderline, and I think Overkill are doing that really well on the grinding wheel. Playing a bit different in a song like Come Heavy, for example, while still kicking ass in Mean Green Killing Machine. This album has 2 real hits, Rip and Tear and Long Time Dyin'. The rest isn't bad either, so a place in the middle of the ranking is well deserved. Overkill fans often ask each other the same question as Annihilator fans. Do you like the Joe Comeau years? I did, and I filmed the band on the tour for this album. You'll find several live songs on my channel. Battle, Godlike and Certifiable are 3 great numbers on the A-side. Maybe the B-side doesn't entirely keep up with these, but Killing Kind still was the best album of that lineup to me. Probably the best attempt to bridge the gap between old Overkill and new Overkill. A bit more modern, but still definitely what we were looking for. Electric Rattlesnake, Come and Get It, Old Wounds, New Scars. Lots of tracks to recommend. The intro takes you by surprise. In the style of a monster movie, it was so brutal when they used it to open their shows on this tour. Afterwards we get songs like Armorist, Bitter Pill, Where There's Smoke, which makes a strong album without flaws and a worthy continuation of its predecessor, The Electric Age. From the powerful opener The Green and the Black to the speedy Bring Me the Night to the weird The Goal Is Your Soul, an album full of great tracks and easily the best Overkill LP in 10 years at least. After hearing the song Hello from the Gutter, Under the Influence became the first Overkill album I ever bought, and since it made me a fan all those years ago, I have a soft spot for it. Still, if I try and be a neutral reviewer, I have to say that Under the Influence didn't cope with the two previous records. The LP includes a couple of weaker tunes like Drunken Wisdom and End of the Line. It closely misses my top 5. After Overkill had experimented quite a bit on Horoscope and I Hear Black, they returned with their 7th album to what they do best, thrash. WFO is an angry album with Where It Hurts, Fast Junkie, Under One, Supersonic Hate, but it also has one of the best Overkill sing-along tunes ever, Bastard Nation. Everything a good Overkill album should have is here. On their 5th album, Overkill had the usual fast tracks like Coma and Thanks for Nothing, but expanded their style with slow tracks. Horoscope, Nice Day for a Funeral or Solitude are all impressive examples of what they had learned since the early days. Talking about early days, between classics like Rotten to the Core and Overkill, 2 or 3 less famous numbers slipped through and the next album would be even better. But for a debut, Feel the Fire was awesome.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
It's a pity I can't have 2 number 1s. From Wrecking Crew to Power Surge, the second Overkill album was one of the best thrash metal albums of all time. In Union We Stand became an anthem essential for many live shows since. Enough said. After 3 great albums, album number 4 showed a band which had grown up. Maybe you prefer the youthful energy of We Don't Care What You Say, but I beg to consider the question why Overkill survived 40 years. Years of Decay was more than thrash. Overkill became more ambitious as songwriters, which is the key to their longevity.
Put in use a mightiest weapon, the Doom Machine.
Doom, for example, had always been a part of Overkill's music if you remember The Answer from the first EP. But it was Skullcrusher from Years of Decay which perfected the combination of Doom with Overkill aggression. There are plenty of speedy numbers like Elimination, I Hate or Evil Never Dies, but also the epic 8-minute title track. Its variety makes it fascinating to listen to Years of Decay still today. Thanks for watching.